The chilling case of the Zodiac Killer. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, a shadow loomed over Northern California, casting fear and dread among its residents. This shadow was the Zodiac Killer, an unidentified serial killer who terrorized the region with a series of brutal murders and cryptic messages. His true identity remains one of the most enduring mysteries in criminal history. It all began on a quiet summer night, July 4, 1969, when two teenagers, Darlene Ferrin and Mike Mageau, decided to spend their evening at Blue Rock Springs Park, near Vallejo. The park was serene, bathed in the gentle glow of the moonlight, the kind of place where one could hear their own thoughts. As the couple sat in their car, a second vehicle approached and parked nearby. They paid little attention until the driver stepped out and walked towards them, blinding them with a flashlight. In a cold, emotionless voice, he ordered them out of the car. "What do you want?" Mike asked, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and defiance. The man didn't answer. Instead, he opened fire, sending bullets ripping through the night air. Mike and Darlene were left for dead, but miraculously, Mike survived, providing the first description of the killer. A white male in his late 20s to early 30s, stocky, with short, light-colored hair. The Zodiac's next move was even more chilling. On August 1, 1969, 3 letters arrived at the offices of the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. Each letter contained a portion of a cryptogram, a puzzle that the killer claimed would reveal his identity. The letters were filled with taunts and threats, proclaiming, "I like killing people because it is so much fun." The cryptograms were a twisted game, challenging the public and authorities to catch him if they could. The Zodiac demanded that his letters be published on the front page of the newspapers, or he would kill again. On September 27, 1969, the Zodiac struck again. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a peaceful afternoon at Lake Berryessa when a man approached them, wearing an executioner-style hood and a chest-mounted bib emblazoned with a white crosshair symbol. He tied them up and stabbed them repeatedly, leaving a chilling message on their car door. A circle with a cross through it, the date and the time of the attack. The horror did not end there. On October 11, 1969, the Zodiac took the life of cab driver Paul Stine in the Presidio Heights neighborhood of San Francisco. Unlike his previous attacks, this one took place in the heart of the city. Witnesses saw the killer wipe down the cab and casually walk away, disappearing into the night. Despite the Zodiac's brazen acts, he remained elusive. He continued to send letters, taunting the police and the public, boasting about his killings, and claiming to have committed more murders than were known to the authorities. In December 1969, the San Francisco Chronicle received a letter containing a piece of Stine's bloody shirt, proving that the writer was indeed the killer. The letter also included a new cipher, which, when decoded, ominously stated, "I will kill again." Detectives pored over the cryptograms and clues, but the Zodiac was always one step ahead. He seemed to relish the game, his letters becoming increasingly elaborate, his threats more menacing. One of the most terrifying moments came on a cold night in July 1970. A local radio show received a call from someone claiming to be the Zodiac. His voice was flat, emotionless, and filled with a quiet menace. "I am the Zodiac," he said, "and I am waiting for a good movie about me to come out." The caller's eerie calmness sent shivers down the spines of those listening. He continued to taunt the authorities, promising more violence if his demands were not met. The Zodiac's last confirmed letter arrived in 1974, but the fear he instilled lingered for years. Theories about his identity abounded, and several suspects emerged, but none were conclusively linked to the crimes. The Zodiac seemed to vanish as mysteriously as he had appeared, leaving a legacy of horror and unanswered questions. The case remains open, a chilling reminder of the terror that one man can inflict on a community. The Zodiac Killer's true identity is still unknown, his cryptic messages unsolved. He became a specter of fear, his legend growing with each passing year. In the decades since the Zodiac's reign of terror, advancements in forensic science and renewed interest in cold cases have provided glimmers of hope. DNA technology, once a distant dream, now offers a chance to unmask the elusive killer. Yet, despite these advances, the Zodiac's true identity continues to evade us. The chilling case of the Zodiac Killer serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk within humanity, a puzzle waiting to be solved, and a ghost story that refuses to rest. As long as his identity remains unknown, the Zodiac Killer will continue to haunt our collective imagination, a boogeyman in the shadows, whispering of the horrors that can happen when the night falls. The Ted Bundy Murders, a descent into darkness. On a chilly evening in 1974, a sense of unease settled over Seattle. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into the unknown. Within the city, the unknown was beginning to manifest in the form of disappearances that would eventually lead to the unveiling of one of the most horrifying serial killers in American history, Ted Bundy. It all began with the vanishing of young women from college campuses. Linda Ann Healy, an accomplished student at the University of Washington, was one of the first to disappear. Friends recalled the eerie night she went missing. The snow was falling gently outside, covering the ground in a thin white blanket. Inside her house, a different kind of chill settled in as her roommates realized Linda was gone. Her bed was neatly made, but she was nowhere to be found. Days turned into weeks, and as the search for Linda continued, more women began to vanish. It was as if a phantom was sweeping through the city, leaving no trace behind. Fear grew palpable, gripping the community in its icy claws. Women walked in pairs, doors were bolted tight, and every shadow seemed a potential threat. "Have you heard about the disappearances?" asked Karen, her voice trembling as she clutched her cup of coffee. "Yeah," replied her friend, Jane, glancing around nervously. "It's terrifying. I heard another girl went missing from Central Washington University." The air was thick with fear, and every whisper seemed to echo the same chilling rumor. A killer was on the loose. The name Ted Bundy began to surface among investigators. He was charming, intelligent, and outwardly normal, qualities that made it hard to believe he could be involved in such heinous acts. Bundy, a law student with political aspirations, was the quintessential wolf in sheep's clothing. He used his charm to lure unsuspecting women, often pretending to be injured or in need of help. Once he gained their trust, the true horror would begin. "Excuse me, miss," Bundy said, his arm in a makeshift sling. "Could you help me carry my books to my car? It's just over there." The young woman hesitated, but then smiled, her guard lowered by his friendly demeanor. "Sure, I'd be happy to help." As they approached his Volkswagen Beetle, an ominous sense of dread settled in the air. The woman would never be seen alive again. Bundy's killing spree spread beyond Washington. From Oregon to Utah to Colorado, the pattern of disappearances continued. The authorities were baffled, unable to connect the dots due to Bundy's ability to adapt and change his methods. He was a chameleon, blending into his surroundings with ease. It wasn't until the audacious daylight abductions at Lake Sammamish State Park in July 1974 that Bundy's facade began to crack. Two women, Janice Ott and Denise Naslund, vanished within hours of each other. Witnesses described a man named Ted, who had asked for help loading a sailboat onto his car. The details were too precise, too consistent to be mere coincidence. Detective Bob Keppel sat in his office, staring at the reports. "We've got a name and a description," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "Now we just need to catch him." Bundy's reign of terror took a dark turn when he moved to Utah to attend law school. Here he continued his sinister activities, but the law finally caught up with him. In August 1975, He was pulled over for a routine traffic stop. The officer discovered suspicious items in his car, including handcuffs and a ski mask. Bundy was arrested, and his face splashed across newspapers nationwide. Despite his arrest, Bundy managed to escape custody twice, further fueling the fear that had gripped the nation. His first escape from a Corthuza library led to an 8-day manhunt, while his second escape from jail saw him flee to Florida, where he would commit his most brutal murders. In the early hours of January 15, 1978, the Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University became the site of a bloodbath. Bundy, armed with a log and his insatiable bloodlust, attacked 4 women, killing 2 and severely injuring the others. The horror within those walls was unimaginable, the screams echoing through the night, a stark reminder of the evil lurking in plain sight. "Please, someone help us!" cried one of the surviving victims, her voice breaking through the darkness. The investigation finally came to a head when Bundy was apprehended in Pensacola, Florida, in February 1978. His trial was a media sensation, with Bundy representing himself in court. His charm and intellect, which had once been his greatest weapons, now served to highlight the monstrous nature of his crimes. "I am not guilty," Bundy declared, smiling confidently at the jury. But the evidence was overwhelming, and his attempts to manipulate the proceedings were futile. He was found guilty and sentenced to death. As he sat on death row, Bundy confessed to over 30 murders, though the true number of his victims remains unknown. His execution on January 24, 1989, brought a sense of closure to many, but the scars of his actions lingered. The story of Ted Bundy is a chilling reminder of the darkness that can hide behind a mask of normalcy. His calculated brutality, his ability to charm and deceive, and his sheer audacity make his story one of the most terrifying in criminal history. The Ted Bundy murders serve as a haunting testament to the evil that can lurk in the most unexpected places, leaving a legacy of horror that continues to fascinate and terrify to this day. The Unresolved Delphi Murders. In the small, quiet town of Delphi, Indiana, a haunting mystery lingers. Nestled amidst picturesque landscapes and surrounded by whispering trees, Delphi is a place where everyone knows each other, where secrets are hard to keep, and where safety feels like a given. But on February 13, 2017, this peaceful facade was shattered, plunging the town into an abyss of fear and suspicion. The day began like any other, with a crisp winter chill in the air. 14-year-old Liberty German, known as Libby to her friends, and her best friend, 13-year-old Abigail Williams, Abby, decided to spend their day off from school exploring the Monon High Bridge Trail. The bridge, a popular local landmark, offered stunning views and a sense of adventure for the 2 young girls. They had no idea that the adventure would turn into a nightmare. "Come on, Abby, let's take some pictures," Libby said, her voice echoing with excitement as they reached the old bridge. Abby nodded, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. They took selfies, giggled, and captured the serene beauty of the surroundings. But as the day wore on, the sunlight began to fade, and the trail seemed more ominous. Around 2:07 p.m., Libby posted a Snapchat photo of Abby walking along the bridge. It was a seemingly innocent snapshot, capturing a fleeting moment of joy. But shortly after that, the girls encountered someone whose presence would mark the end of their short lives and the beginning of a harrowing mystery. The last known footage of the girls was a grainy video found on Libby's phone, showing a man approaching them on the bridge. His voice, though barely audible, sent chills down the spine of anyone who listened. "Down the hill," he commanded. The video cut off abruptly, leaving a haunting silence that echoed through the town. When the girls didn't return home that evening, their families grew worried. By nightfall, a search party had been organized, scouring the trails and woods in desperation. The search continued into the next day until, tragically, the girls' bodies were discovered near Deer Creek. not far from the bridge. The community's heart was broken, and an eerie dread settled over Delphi. The investigation began immediately. The police released the chilling footage of the suspect and his voice, hoping someone would recognize him. The image of the man, dressed in a blue jacket, jeans, and a cap, became synonymous with the fear that now gripped the town. Tips poured in, but each lead seemed to end in a dead end, deepening the despair and frustration. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the case grew colder. Theories abounded, each more unsettling than the last. Some whispered about a drifter who had come through town, leaving chaos in his wake. Others feared it was someone from the community, someone who could blend in unnoticed. In the midst of the ongoing investigation, the families of Libby and Abby fought to keep the girls' memories alive. "We won't rest until justice is served," Libby's grandfather, Mike Patty, often said, his voice filled with both resolve and sorrow. Candlelight vigils were held, and the hashtag #Justice for Libby and Abby trended on social media, spreading the word far beyond the borders of Delphi. One cold winter evening, nearly a year after the murders, Detective Greg Harding sat in his office, poring over the case files once again. The dim light cast shadows across the room, adding to the already heavy atmosphere. As he sifted through the evidence, something caught his eye, a detail he had missed before. His heart raced as he dialed the number of his partner, Detective Lisa Murphy. "Lisa, you need to see this," Greg said, his voice barely above a whisper. Within minutes, Lisa arrived, and Greg showed her the detail. A small, seemingly insignificant mark on one of the photographs from the crime scene. It matched a mark found on another unsolved case from a neighboring town. Could it be the same perpetrator? As they dug deeper, a pattern emerged, a trail of unsolved murders and disappearances spanning several states, each with chilling similarities. The detectives felt a renewed sense of urgency and dread. They were dealing with a calculated, elusive predator. The town of Delphi, once vibrant and full of life, now seemed perpetually shrouded in gloom. The bridge where Libby and Abby had taken their last steps stood as a silent sentinel, a grim reminder of the innocence lost and the horror that had invaded their lives. On the third anniversary of the murders, the police released a new sketch of the suspect, hoping it would jog someone's memory. The sketch, based on witness testimonies and enhanced by forensic artists, depicted a man with piercing eyes and a sinister demeanor. The reaction was immediate, but once again, no solid leads emerged. Despite the lack of resolution, the town of Delphi remains united in its quest for justice. The bridge, once a symbol of freedom and exploration, now serves as a memorial for Libby and Abby. Flowers and notes of love and remembrance adorn the site, a testament to the impact the girls had on their community. The unresolved Delphi murders continue to haunt those who seek the truth. The identity of the man in the video remains a mystery, his chilling command echoing in the minds of all who hear it. As the seasons change and years go by, the hope for closure endures. The story of Libby and Abby is a reminder of the fragility of life, the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface, and the enduring strength of a community determined to find justice for its lost daughters.